What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Peak Season Podcast. We're glad to have you with us today. If you're just joining us for the first time, my name is Luke Miller. On this is the podcast where we go into all things short-term rentals with a special emphasis on family life, wealth building, entrepreneurship, and helping you find your peak season. Today, we've got a really fun episode. It's 6 lessons that I learned launching and renovating a short-term rental from 6 states away. All right, so let's set the scene. This Airbnb is in Bellaire, Michigan, which is just outside of Traverse City. I live in Houston, Texas. It is a 7-hour flight. It's a 7-hour travel day to get there. It's 2 flights with a layover in Chicago. So you have the potential for delays in Chicago, flight cancellations, all that. It's a big deal to get up there. You can't just fly in for the day and fly back out. So that's challenge number one. Challenge number two is I still have a W-2 job. Often I'm working 6 days a week. I did plan some vacation days around trying to make this all work, but it's never enough. And my wife has a W-2. She works full time as well. And we have 2 kids, 7 and 9. They're in elementary school. They've got all the after school activities, daddy-daughter dances, all the things. We don't want to miss that. I don't want to trade my family life for this property. But at the same time, this is building generational wealth. This is setting up our life plan and what we want the next 30 years of our life to look like. So this is something that was important to us, and we wanted to get it done. So without further ado, we're going to get into the 6 lessons I learned launching and renovating this property. Let's just go into the project a little bit. First, it was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath. The upper 2 levels, a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on floor 2 and 3. There was a garage on the main floor, or kind of the basement, like a drive-in basement type situation. And we wanted to effectively add a living space, a nice suite with a bedroom and a bathroom, and completely finish out this bottom level to make it into a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. And that also involved pulling out a garage door and putting in nice glass sliders in place of that garage door, putting in a egress window for the bedroom, professionally designing and furnishing the entire property that didn't come with any furniture. We needed to do some flooring on the upper level. It had white carpet on the stairway going up to the second, or actually what is now the 3rd floor. So it had white carpet going up the stairs and into the bedrooms and living spaces up there. So it is a pretty big undertaking, and we'll cut into would I do it again, the lessons learned, and that won't be till the end though. So at the very end, we'll get into would I do this again if I had the opportunity. All right, so let's get into lesson number 1. The budget will lie to you. Anybody that's ever done a renovation knows that the budget always gets out of hand. And I knew going into it that this was the largest renovation I'd ever done. I've done little things, little projects, things that take a week or so, not things that take multiple months. But I knew that I needed to add extra to our budget, forecast for overages, forecast for more holding costs, things like that. But I really wasn't prepared. I kind of under forecasted that a little bit. Now, luckily, I knew that I needed to probably plan for double the expenses. We didn't quite get there, but I had reserves in place to where I could keep this going. And this wasn't going to be one of those properties you see on Zillow where it is partially finished and they're selling it at a discount. So if you're going into this yourself, just plan for your budget to be way over and plan for your holding costs, because that's the most important thing, really. Those are the sneaky, quiet budget lines that add up really quick. So when I say holding costs, I mean paying your mortgage, your utilities, snow removal, having people drop by just to take care of things that would need to be taken care of on any house, much less one that's being renovated. So packaging that all in and then adding on to it for things that go wrong, can't recommend that enough. All right, lesson number 2. So the order of operations is non-negotiable. So the way we kind of ran this, and one thing that I would do differently is the entire order of operations. So when I say the order of operations, I mean I had one contractor coming in, and my instructions to him were basically to start high and work low. And what that meant was I wanted him to go and do the flooring on the upper levels, do all the trim work on that upper level, and keep working his way down into the basement so that when he finished the upper levels, we could then furnish, design, set up those as we went. And what I came to find out was that that was easier said than done. So one example of that was he did the flooring, but he didn't want to do the trim work until he could do all the trim work at the same time. So it was going to take him more time. Or he needed to do certain things before winter came. So he had to abandon the upstairs and go downstairs. For instance, he didn't want to cut that window in downstairs while it was below freezing out. That makes sense. But those were not things that I forecasted in my plan. So I was thinking it should take him approximately 3 weeks to finish upstairs. And at that point, I was going to start sending I was going to get my design done with my interior designer, start sending all the things. And what ended up happening was we're moving boxes and boxes and boxes of furnishings in to a place where he is still effectively working upstairs. And now we have people tripping over each other. There's construction dust and all of that getting on all of my new furniture and all of these nice things that we're buying for the property. So if I had the opportunity to do it over, I would have just said, okay, you do everything you need to do from the contractor standpoint, and I'm not going to move a single thing in there until you are done. And would that have added some time? Maybe, but it would have simplified the whole process. And it probably would have saved money because I wouldn't have been paying people to set up frivolously because I was having people try and set up the second and third floors. Well, he was still in there working, and it was just kind of a mess, right? We have two different teams working on two different objectives, and there was nobody there that was really in charge of all of them. It was me 1,000 miles away that was trying to run the entire project. All right, so number 3, that kind of leads us into this. Managing people gets expensive fast. So like I said, I had a main contractor that was doing all the renovation. I had other contractors that were coming in and doing cleaning, setup, hanging blinds, things like that. And a lot of times they were creating inefficiencies for each other, which eventually cost me more money. So until now, I subscribe to the theory that time equals money. You have to be fast when you're setting these things up. And I still believe that, but I truly believe that if you are going to be doing a renovation, that there needs to be phases to it, and one phase shouldn't start until the other one's done. So managing all these people to do all these things, not only was it a headache and a point of frustration for me and for them, but it just got out of hand fast. And eventually I pulled the plug on the whole setup team and I said, okay, you guys are coming out until the renovation is done. And once I did that, it got a lot less frustrating and it allowed the contractor to basically work uninterrupted. So lesson number 4, especially for the setup phase, you need leadership on the ground. And what I mean by that is when you are hiring, especially hourly workers or people that are just skilled labor, a lot of times they are going to need direction from somebody who has a comprehensive view of the entire project. So in this case, we had people, they might set up a coffee table and I say, well, I'm not sure where that coffee table goes. So they're going to leave it in one room and it's going to stop something else from being set up. Or when I got there to set everything up, everything still had tags on it. There's instruction manuals all over the place. There was nobody there to say, okay, that's good, clip the tags off, or we don't need the instruction manual. You don't need to, tape the Allen key that it came with to put it together to it for me. And these people, they mean well, but they're ultimately just creating more work for me as I come in. We need somebody on the ground with a cohesive view of how this is all going to work. And especially if you're going to have construction and setup going on at the same time. Somebody that's going to say, oh no, this is the priority. This is what we do. So once I got on the ground, my wife and I flew into town for the final portion of the setup for about 4 days before the photographer was going to come. Actually, 3 days before the photographer was going to come. And we effectively were able to lead the team and say, this is exactly what we need. This is exactly what we don't, and keep them very on task. And we went room by room and we finished everything. If I had a chance to do it over, I would have been there for at least 7 days and I would have been on the ground for all the setup. It doesn't mean I'm going to do the setup, but it does mean that I'm going to be there directing it. If for no other reason than because of efficiency and because nobody cares like you do about these properties. Lesson number 5, interior design is well worth it. So I partnered with Andrea Moxham from Moxie & Co. She's a first-class human being. I would wholeheartedly recommend her. And she hit the design absolutely out of the park on this. Incredibly professional, incredibly responsive. She's amazing. At the very end of the project, my wife and I were sitting in the living room just looking around and thinking, okay, we could have never done this ourselves. And it's not because we don't have a decent eye for design or because we don't know what we like, but it was because we needed somebody that had a vision for the entire property. So I mean, color palettes, mood boards, somebody that's going to say that fixture is brand new, but it doesn't go with the vibe that we're setting. And if it was just me doing that, I would have said, yeah, that ceiling fan's fine. It's brand new. I'm not going to replace a brand new ceiling fan. But when you have a designer that comes in and says, okay, I need to create a vision here. This is going to have my name on it. You get that extra push to take care of those little things and to kind of swallow that pill of maybe ripping out something that's brand new in favor of something that is brand new and fits your design. So at a bare minimum, when I do properties like this in the future, if I'm doing a full furnish, sometimes I buy properties and we just kind of go in there and we brush up what's already there and then we launch them. I don't think you necessarily need a designer for that. But if you are fully furnishing a property, at least hire a designer to help you come up with a vision for the living space and help you design and furnish your living space and maybe your kitchen. And then you have a color palette and sort of a aesthetic that you can carry into the other rooms if you don't want to pay a full design fee. And I'm not sure if other designers would do that. I haven't tried doing that exactly yet, but I assume you could find somebody that would be willing to do that. All right, lesson number 6, mindset and leadership absolutely matter. And what I mean by that is you are leading this renovation. Whether you hire somebody to actually do the implementation and the install and all that, like Kim Fitzpatrick over at Launch Host, she's probably the only person I would actually hire to do this, and the only person that I think has the reputation and the trust to do this, in my view. But regardless of that, the way you treat people and the way that you present yourself to them is going to matter in the long run. And I think had I been discouraged or had I been nickel and diming people or been unreasonable with my requests of my team early on, they might have walked off the job or they might not have finished or they might have cut corners in places that I might not have even seen. And I think treating these people in a certain kind of way is going to help, and you set the tone for the entire project. Full disclosure, when we got on the ground, I was not happy with a lot of the things that were done at this property, even though I thought I was keeping close tabs on it. And I wished that I had been there more to bring it all together. And I actually had to call the contractor, and I had to go to kind of a dark place and get a little bit aggressive or assertive with them. And honestly, I'm more of a person that thinks you can catch more flies with honey than vinegar. But I think in this case, maybe I was being taken advantage a little bit, and I had to get ugly, go to a place where I don't like to go. And being able to get into that space, I think helped them understand that I wasn't somebody that they could mistake my kindness for weakness. And they came back and they made it right. And that's all you can ask at the end of the day. And I truly appreciate it if they ever listen to the podcast. But I think um, being able to personally grow and get into a space where you are not used to going. So I'm very comfortable being nice and assertive to people, but I am not very comfortable actually showing somebody that I'm upset. And in this case, I had to go there, and it ended up working out for me. So it's good that that you have the right mindset going through the whole thing, but understand that if you take on one of these things and it's your first time, you're going to need to grow personally to get it done. So as promised, I'm going to get down to, was it worth it? And I can say 100% yes, it was worth it. This place is absolutely beautiful. We have been teasing it on social media throughout the entire evolution of the renovation. And thanks to that, we're running about 50% direct bookings on this property already, which is, I would have never guessed that we would be doing that. So I am absolutely loving that. And I am absolutely obsessed with the way that it turned out. It's by far my favorite property that we run. I think we're going to be able to charge a premium because of how awesome it came out, and it's going to be ultra profitable. And ultimately, this was for my family and I to build generational wealth and set my children up, and hopefully my children's children by the time we're done running this thing. And I think that we actually hit it out of the park, and I can't wait to do another one. And icing on the cake, we had a comp in the neighborhood sell. Actually, it went under contract just a few days ago, and if it closes at the price it's under contract at, then I think I will have doubled my investment into this property as far as the outlay for the renovation and everything. So I put about 100K into designing, furnishing, renovation, all that, and I think we're going to build about 200K in equity. So you can't ask for any more than that. If I could do one of these once a year, I would absolutely do it. We'll see if we'll be able to make that happen. But I think doing value adds where you're smart and you're targeted and you're tactical is absolutely a great way to build wealth and to get into short-term rentals in a strong cash flow position, if nothing else. So I have a lot of equity in this property. It's going to cash flow well, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. Now, before we wrap up, I do have one bonus tip for you, and that is not to do this alone. And I don't mean people that you're paying. I mean your support system personally. And for me, that support system begins and ends with my beautiful wife, Megan. Before we closed on this property, we got on the same page with our goals and what we wanted to do. And she's typically somebody that is more conservative, and she's not all in on this real estate thing like I am. I think she's getting there, but we got on the same page before we even started, and we talked about the budget, and we talked about what we want it to look like and what the expenses are going to look like. And I think had I not done that in advance, we would have probably there would have been a lot more stress throughout the entire process as I'm writing checks to these people over and over and over again to get this project done. And especially as we're going over budget and over time, if I was experiencing stress at home because of the stress that's happening in Michigan, it would have been twice as difficult. But I had somebody that I was aligned with walking with me through the entire process, and that was incredible. Also, throughout the process, I had family up in Michigan that would occasionally help or swing by the property. My dad was up there blowing leaves in the fall and saved me money from having to do a fall cleanup. Uh, my good buddy Tyler, who's also on the podcast, he was constantly asking me about it, being a sounding board, giving me advice, or just being sort of a support system inside my investor community. And without those people, I don't know that we would have been able to get to the finish line. And then going back to my wife, I mean, when we did the trip, if I had done that trip alone to do the final setup, we were on the ground for just under 3 days before the photographer was going to be there to take pictures. And this Cody Lind. He's an amazing photographer. He books out. And had I canceled on him, I would not have gotten him back for a year, at least, if he had even agreed to come back after canceling on him last minute. So not having this property ready was not an option. And having my wife on the ground, helping, pulling in the same direction, providing that support is absolutely priceless. And I can't imagine had I went there to do this myself and I only had people that I was actually paying to be there. Megan being able to go to the hardware store while I'm running contractors, or helping clean things when the cleaner doesn't show up, or just having that different eye, especially an eye for design and making things cozy. She went into all the bedrooms and automatically realized, hey, all these rugs are facing the wrong way because the contractor didn't really understand how rugs should go under a bed. And not only did she realize it, but without two people there at 2 o'clock in the morning, how am I ever going to move these rugs? So we got all the rugs turned, and just things like that multiplied across a several day trip just really helped to hit it home that nobody should do this alone. And even if you're just paying like a good friend to come with you or something like that, I think bringing somebody in your support system or somebody that you can count on 100% on these setup trips with you is absolutely priceless. So that's all I got for you. If you got any questions, hit us up in the comments. Let us know. You can follow us at the Peak Season on Instagram. We would love to see you out there. And everybody take care. Have a good one. We'll see you on the next one.